Before we start, take 1 second to subscribe, because today's story could completely change how you look at the loose change sitting in your house. Let me ask you something that most people have never really thought about. Where do you sell your coins when you realize one of them might be worth real money? Keep that question in your mind, because by the end of this video, you might be looking at your pocket change very differently. Imagine this. A simple brown coin. No shine like silver, no gold color, no dramatic design. Just a small copper coin that millions of Americans have touched, spent, ignored, and tossed into jars. The 1974 1-cent coin from the United States. On the surface, it looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar face on the front. The Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing flashy. Nothing special. Or at least, that's what most people believe. But hidden inside this everyday coin is a story that has turned ordinary people into lifelong collectors and, in rare cases, shocked the entire coin world. The year 1974 was not a quiet year in America. The country was dealing with economic pressure, rising prices, and major changes in daily life. Copper prices were moving, production costs were rising, and the U.S. Mint was striking massive numbers of pennies to keep up with demand. Millions upon millions of 1-cent coins rolled out of mint facilities and entered circulation. Most of them were spent on groceries, newspapers, gas, and candy. They lived hard lives. They were scratched, worn, dropped on sidewalks, and forgotten under car seats. But a tiny number of these coins were different from the moment they were born. When we talk about coin value, most people think age is everything. Older means more valuable, right? Not always. Condition, rarity, errors, and history matter just as much, sometimes more. And this is where the 1974 1-cent coin becomes fascinating. While common examples are still worth just 1 cent, there are versions of this coin that collectors will stop, stare at, and quietly calculate how much they are willing to pay. Let's talk about condition first, because this is where many people overestimate or underestimate what they own. A 1974 penny that has been heavily circulated, with flattened details and dull color, is usually not exciting to collectors. But a coin from the same year that looks almost untouched, with sharp details on Lincoln's hair, clean lines on the memorial, and original color, can suddenly move into a completely different category. Coins like that didn't survive by accident. They were set aside, stored carefully, or simply lucky. Now here's where things get really interesting for viewers like you, especially if you're between 35 and 65 and have lived long enough to remember these coins when they were brand new. The real excitement around the 1974 1-cent coin comes from rare variations and minting mistakes. Errors at the mint are not supposed to happen, but when they do, they create some of the most valuable coins in American history. These errors are like fingerprints. No two are exactly the same, and collectors love that. Some 1974 pennies show unusual doubling in the design. This can appear in the lettering, the date, or even Lincoln's features. It's not damage from circulation. It's a mistake that happened when the coin was struck. To the untrained eye, it can look subtle. To a collector, it can be electrifying. Other examples include off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned, leaving part of the coin blank. Then, there are wrong planchet errors, where a coin is struck on metal it was never supposed to be on. These are the kinds of coins that make experienced collectors lean forward in their chairs. Think about how many people have spent decades dumping jars of pennies into machines without ever looking at them. Think about how many collections were inherited, stored in drawers, or forgotten in basements. Now think about the possibility that one of those 1974 pennies is not ordinary at all. That is the feeling that keeps collectors searching, sorting, and studying. Another detail that matters is where the coin was made. Different mint locations produced pennies in 1974, and subtle differences can affect desirability. Some mint marks are more common than others. Some strikes are sharper. Some have known varieties that collectors actively hunt. Knowledge becomes power here. The more you understand what to look for, the better your chances of spotting something special. This is where I want you to pause and think about that earlier question again. Where do you sell your coins if you discover one that might be valuable? Many people rush. They sell too quickly. They don't research. They accept the first offer because they're excited or nervous. Experienced collectors know that patience and information can make a life-changing difference. A coin is only worth what someone knowledgeable is willing to pay, and the right buyer matters just as much as the coin itself. The story of the 1974 one-cent coin isn't just about metal and minting. It's about awareness. It's about slowing down and paying attention to things we've been trained to ignore. For decades, pennies were treated as almost worthless. But within that ocean of copper, a few extraordinary pieces quietly survived, waiting for someone to recognize them. Collectors in this age group often say the same thing when they finally understand this. I wish I had known earlier. I wish I had looked more closely. I wish I hadn't given so many away. But here's the good news. Coins are still out there. Collections are still being found. Estate boxes are still being opened. And knowledge today is easier to access than ever before. If you have a 1974 one-cent coin, the first step is not selling it. The first step is learning. Look at it under good light. Compare it carefully. Study the details. Ask questions. Talk to people who understand coins. The difference between a common penny and a rare one can be subtle, but the difference in value can be dramatic. This is why stories like this matter. They remind us that history isn't just in museums. Sometimes it's in your pocket. Sometimes it's in a jar on a shelf. Sometimes it's been passed down without anyone realizing what it really is. The 1974 one-cent coin represents that idea perfectly. Ordinary on the outside. Potentially extraordinary on the inside. So before you roll your eyes at pennies, before you dump them into a machine, before you assume they are all the same, remember this story. Remember that collectors have spent years searching for specific examples from this exact year. Remember that rarity doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. And now, let's bring this full circle. If you discovered that your 1974 one-cent coin was a rare error, a special strike, or an exceptional example, would you know what to do next? Would you know who to trust? Would you know how to protect its value? That's why asking the question where you sell your coins is so important. Because the answer can determine whether you walk away with pocket change or something far more meaningful. When people hear a number like that, the first reaction is disbelief. It sounds impossible that a one-cent coin, something we've all held thousands of times, could reach that level. But the coin world has always lived in the space between what looks ordinary and what truly is rare. The difference is never luck alone. It is attention, patience, and knowing what questions to ask before making a move. Many collectors who have found valuable coins didn't start as experts. They were teachers, mechanics, office workers, retirees, parents. People who simply slowed down one day and decided to look instead of spend. They noticed something felt different. Maybe the coin looked slightly off. Maybe the weight didn't feel right. Maybe the strike seemed sharper than usual. That moment of curiosity is where everything begins. The 1974 one-cent coin is a perfect example of how small details create big value. Some rare examples came from unusual production moments, when machinery was adjusted, when dies were wearing out, or when the wrong metal planchet was used. These are not things you can see from across the room. They reveal themselves only when you look closely. And for viewers watching this video, that's the real message. Value often hides in plain sight. Point one of the biggest mistakes people make is cleaning a coin. It sounds harmless. They want it to look shiny and new. But cleaning can permanently damage a coin's surface and destroy collector value instantly. Original condition matters more than shine. A coin with natural color and untouched surfaces is far more desirable than one that has been polished. If there is one rule to remember, it's this: never clean a coin you think might be valuable. Another mistake is assuming all advice is equal. Not everyone who buys coins understands rare varieties. Not everyone who gives an offer has your best interest in mind. This is why knowledge protects you. When you understand what makes a 1974 penny special, you can ask better questions and recognize when an offer doesn't make sense. Think about how many stories you've heard of people selling something too quickly, only to find out later it was worth far more. Coins are no different. Rushing is the enemy of value. The smartest collectors take their time. They verify. They compare. They confirm details again and again. They understand that one small feature can separate a common coin from a legendary one. There's also an emotional side to coin collecting that doesn't get talked about enough, especially for people in this age range. Coins connect us to our past. Many 1974 pennies were carried by parents, grandparents, and even by us when we were younger. Finding a rare coin from that era feels personal. It's not just money. It's history you can hold in your hand. As people reach their later years, many start sorting through belongings, old boxes, and family keepsakes. Coin collections are often found this way. Sometimes they were carefully assembled. Sometimes they were just accumulated over time. Either way, these moments are opportunities. A 1974 1-cent coin tucked into an envelope or jar might deserve a second look before being dismissed. The collectors who succeed are not the ones who chase every rumor. They are the ones who learn how to see. They study images. They compare examples. They understand the difference between damage and a real mint error. They know that weight, alignment, lettering, and texture all tell a story. And once you learn how to read that story, every coin becomes interesting. Now let's come back to that hook question one last time. Where do you sell your coins? The real answer is that selling should come after understanding, after verification, after confidence. The right place, the right timing, and the right buyer all matter. A rare coin deserves careful handling and informed decisions. The difference between selling in a rush and selling with knowledge can be life-changing. The 1974 1-cent coin teaches us something bigger than its own story. It reminds us that value is not always obvious, that ordinary objects can carry extraordinary potential, and that paying attention can open doors we never expected. This isn't about chasing dreams. It's about recognizing possibilities. So the next time you see a penny on the ground, or hear the rattle of coins in a jar, don't dismiss them. Take a moment. Look closer. Ask questions. Because somewhere out there, a small brown coin from 1974 is still waiting for the right person to notice it. If this video made you think differently about the coins you already own, then you're exactly the kind of person who understands why this story matters. And if you're still asking yourself where you would sell your coins if you found something special, that means the message landed exactly where it needed to. Thank you for staying until the end. Keep looking, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of a single cent.